So, now that Pokemon Go is changing ownership, is Niantic moving away from their core philosophy of outdoor-based gameplay? That's precisely what I want to explore in this video. I really do think, based on some of the things that Niantic has been doing, and some of the things that they are going to be doing, it is very possible that Pokemon Go is going to be a game that's going to be a lot more friendly for people who want to play from home. Alright, how's it going everyone? Count Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon Go video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. So this video is kind of a follow-up to a video that I made 2 days ago, or I believe. It was a video talking about some things that Niantic recently announced regarding some upcoming changes to Shadow Raids as well as Dynamax battles. More in particular, they are going to be allowing those pieces of content to be done remotely, which I think was very popular among the Pokemon Go community. I think a lot of people have been wanting for Shadow Raids to be done remotely, and Niantic finally is allowing that to happen. And it really does seem like they are taking some steps to allow more players to be able to experience all of this different content without having to go outside. And it really does go against some of their core philosophies of making the game more about being outdoor-based gameplay. So this is something I want to talk about because I think there's a lot of discussions happening online where people are wondering if Niantic is going to retract a lot of the things that they've been leaning on when it comes to Pokemon Go's design. And for the most part, I do think that they are going to ease up a little bit because, well, the game is going to be sold to a different company, or at least it already has been. We already know that Pokemon Go is going to be owned and operated by Scopely Inc., which is a game studio or a game publisher that has done things like Monopoly Go, Marvel Strike Force, different things like that, and they tend to focus a little bit more on monetization. But when it comes to Pokemon Go, they have already declared that they are going to be hands-off, and they're going to keep the development team that is currently in place, and they're going to be the ones to just kind of ride on the success of Pokemon Go. I do not necessarily think that's entirely true. I think that's just general things that you would typically hear from companies that take over another company. But I really do think there is some merit to believe that we're going to see some positive changes to Pokemon Go because they're going to be essentially detached from a lot of the things that made Niantic Niantic. What do I mean by that? Well, if you think about Niantic Labs, if you think about Niantic as a company, yes, they have developed some really successful games like Pokemon Go, but I would say that they were always a tech company. They weren't necessarily a game development studio. As someone who does have a history working in the game industry, I will tell you that just based on my experiences, Niantic has been developing Pokemon Go in a very different way from a typical game studio. Some people will say that is to the success of Pokemon Go, that some of the things that Niantic were doing is why Pokemon Go is successful. I will make the argument that yeah, they did make some pretty good design decisions over the years, and they're riding on a very successful IP. But at the same time, I will say that overall, it seems like a lot of their design decisions when it came to Pokemon Go was more towards pushing the technology of AR rather than more better gameplay. I mean, they have admitted as much. They've always talked about how they're trying to push forward AR mapping technology, and they've been using a lot of the data from Pokemon Go to actually further pursue some of those ventures. And yeah, I think that's not a problem. I think if they're trying to focus on creating a lot better AR mapping technology that could be used by governments, they could be used by companies like Google, and I think a lot of that stuff is cool, you know? Like, I'm not against that, but it never really felt like they cared about the gameplay experience and the player experience as much as they cared about pushing AR technology, because a lot of their design decisions was all about getting you to go out and explore and interacting with points of interests. And it doesn't really seem like they cared enough about gameplay balance. They never cared about, I don't know, for you to have exciting experiences when you go out and play. Sure, they've made some positive changes and quality of life improvements here and there, but just when it comes to the gameplay, it just seems like they really haven't had a good grasp on proper game design, if you kind of catch my drift. But a lot of that could change now that Scopely Inc. is the owners of Pokémon GO. The reason why I say that is because with Scopely Inc., they are now decoupled from this push for better AR technology. That's not going to be the aim of Pokémon GO anymore. Now they're going to be able to focus more on gameplay decisions. They're going to be focusing more on player experiences. And I personally feel like this is all evident with some of the decisions that they've made recently. I mean, with this whole Shadow Raid and Dynamax battle being able to remote into them ordeal, I think that's very much evident that they're actually paying attention to player feedback. I mean, even recently with this change to Shadow Raids and Dynamax battles, that really seems to indicate that they're starting to pay attention to what players are saying, and they're trying to think of ways to improve the player experience. We of course know that hyper training is coming to Pokemon GO, and a lot of the tasks that are involved with hyper training does not even necessarily involve going out and playing. They involve doing PvP battles, which you could do from home. Some of them involve like battling Team Go Rocket leaders and Team Go Rocket grunts, which you could also do from home with the Team Go Rocket balloons. And of course, like, I don't know, like interacting with your buddy, playing with your buddy, you know, different things like that. There are a few tasks that do require some outdoor-based gameplay, of course, like you have to walk kilometers with your Pokemon, and then of course you have to spin Pokestops and different things like that, but it's nothing egregious where you have to go out and, I don't know, like you have to go out and raid like 50 raids. Maybe there is going to be a task like that. I don't know, but I just really feel like overall they're going to start pushing a lot more like remote-based gameplay, and I really hope they do. I mean, when it came to remote raid passes, for example, when they first introduced that, it was basically a response to COVID, right? Like, they could not have a lot of players outdoors anymore, so they had to adjust the gameplay so that players will still be able to engage with Pokemon GO, and they're not going to lose out on a lot of revenue. And from everything that I've heard from Niantic, it was always intended to be kind of like a band-aid fix, that they never really intended to push remote raiding that hard. But of course, over time, it ended up becoming kind of like the preferred method for how people raid, and they wanted to dial that back, and I totally understand that, because yes, with remote raiding, it was basically the way that a lot of communities started to fall apart. I mean, overall, I feel like a lot of the local communities that I was a part of, like, most of them hinged on in-person raiding. I mean, there was DTC, which is the largest Pokemon Go community in the downtown Chicago area and the surrounding areas, and yeah, they're still going strong, and there's still a robust community there, and I still chat with a lot of people in that group, but it really felt like the way that that group became so close was wafu raiding, with all these people who continuously raid together. And when it came to like raid days, they were always forming groups and coming up with routes, with maps and different things like that. Like, they were coming up with different ways to hit every single gym within a certain period of time. Like, it was pretty fun. It was pretty awesome. And there's actually a lot of really old videos on my channel where I actually raided with a bunch of players from that group. And it was always a really good time. And I got really close with a lot of these players. And a lot of that did fizzle out because of remote raiding. I will admit that. And I think this is something that Niantic was very much aware of. And I do understand that they want to bring some of that magic back, that they wanted to bring a little bit more of a sense of community, and they wanted to essentially force players to play in a way that would have promoted that. They kind of swung the pendulum a little too far the other way, and this is something that I've definitely vocalized very often on my channel, that when it comes to the nerf to remote raids, I feel like rather than easing it off a little bit, and then rather than creating a lot more incentives for in-person raiding, they just completely tried to kill remote raiding, and, you know, doubling the price, putting a hard limit of 5 per day. Like, it basically, like, essentially it just destroyed one aspect of Pokemon Go that was proving to be very successful. And this is something that I've directly told to his face, to Michael Staranka, that I really felt like remote raiding fixed a lot more issues with the game than it actually created. That, yes, there were a lot of problems with remote raiding. It did destroy communities and different things like that, but it also created a lot of communities. It connected a lot of players from all parts of the world. I will say, before remote raiding, my community was pretty much players in Chicago, but once remote raiding was introduced, now I was talking and playing with players in Australia, in New Zealand, in India, in Japan, in South Korea. There was a lot of players that I was chatting with, like I was texting them on Discord, and I made a lot of these worldwide connections, and it just made me feel like Pokemon Go was a much bigger game. And then on top of that, for people who live in suburban areas and rural areas where you would typically not find a community to begin with, now the game was opened up for them. They now had an avenue to actually engage with the game in the same way that a lot of people in urban areas engage with the game. So yeah, I really felt like remote raiding was something that should have been an integral part of Pokemon Go's future, but Niantic decided to go the other way. And I think a big part of that was also because they just wanted to promote this sense of outdoor-based gameplay. They really firmly believed that the success of the game hinged on players playing together within their local communities. And I really feel like the problem with that is that ultimately the game has evolved. Players have also evolved in a way. That some of us are a lot older, some of us have families now, some of us just do not have the same means as they might have before, and because of that, it's going to be much harder to block out an entire weekend to do Wafu raiding. Like even people like Brandon Tan, like they do not raid as much as they used to, and it's totally evident that they have changed, they have moved on, they're in a different stage of life now, and because of that, something like remote raiding still allows them to engage with the game like they used to, but without having to deal with a lot of the issues of, you know, basically sacrificing big aspects of their life in order to play Pokemon Go. So yeah, I just did not agree ultimately with the remote raid pass nerf. But maybe this is something that Scopely will understand, and it's something that I'm actually really hoping for. And like I said, now that Niantic does not necessarily have that baggage of having to focus on AR technology, that a lot of the resources going into Pokemon Go are not going to go towards pushing AR technology, maybe now they will start paying attention to a lot of these things that I just talked about. Maybe they're going to see that players do actually prefer remote content rather than in-person content, and they're going to start nudging the game more closer to that. I do not think they're going to abandon outdoor-based gameplay. I do not think they're going to do anything like make some sort of legal spoofing method. I really do not think they're going to go that direction. They might. They personally might. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I still feel like with the game as it currently is, they're going to start paying more attention to some of the things that I do personally believe will actually make the game a lot better than it currently is. I do think Pokemon Go has the potential to be a game that will last for decades. It's going to be a game that is going to be multi-generational, but it's really going to be up to you to allow the game to evolve with their player base, and I really hope you do allow that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I think there's just a lot of thoughts in my head regarding the future of Pokemon Go as of late. I've been honestly enjoying the content quite a lot. Niantic has been doing a lot of really good things with Pokemon Go. All things considered, I think the game is in good hands. I do actually keep up with some of the developers that are currently there. I know people have a lot of contentious feelings towards Niantic, but I do trust that they're going to make some positive changes. I do think there's a lot of people over at Niantic that really do care about this game and this property. So yeah, let's just see what happens, and I'm really excited to see how the future of Pokemon Go is going to be, especially with Scopely taking over. And with all that said, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts regarding everything that I talked about down below. Do you completely disagree with everything that I talked about, or do you feel like, yeah, maybe the game is going to go in a better direction now that it's going to be under new owners? Definitely share all your thoughts, because this is definitely a discussion that's going to be ongoing. And yeah, hopefully we can have a really great discussion in the comments. And yeah, I look forward to seeing your thoughts. And thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And real quick, Let me give a shout out to every single one of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel, if you want to support everything that I do, the best way you could do that is going to be by joining my Patreon. And if you become a paid Patreon member, no matter what the tier, I'm going to add you to my Pokemon Go friends list. So that means for stuff like remote raids and the friendship system and opening and sending gifts. If you want to play Pokemon Go with me, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. And if you want to support my channel in a completely different way, you're always welcome to do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms that you see on the bottom of your screen. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow, and you'll have access to some exclusive content. And you'll be able to keep up with my daily life. And that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, and love yourself today. And I'll catch you all later.